guys, what's happening? Welcome to another prequel episode of the Knowledge from the Couch podcast. I'm Kyle, still your host between the regular episodes and the prequel episodes and all the bullshit here, there, and everywhere. Guys, what's up? This is another episode that is going to detail what we're going to do for the month of July, and as always, updates on how the show is doing and updates on just stuff in general. If you are new to the show, welcome to the show. This is an interesting way to, I guess, introduce yourself to the show. So I guess if this is what you're going to get your information from, then I guess I'll do a little bit of explaining. This show is a history podcast. I wouldn't say it's an entirely aimless history podcast, but it sort of is. I tackle a lot of different subject matter from a lot of different eras. We tend to go into a little bit of the American history more than any other things, although I have not shied away from international history as well. When the show started, I started it back in September of 2017. My big idea was that I just wanted to, get the knowledge and the stuff rattling around in my brain, out of my mouth, through a microphone, and, digitally into the computer and then out to other people's ears. That was really the entire giant idea for the show. I never really wanted to do anything crazy about it. I just wanted to talk about interesting stuff that was cool and interesting and fun to me, and, it helps me sort of regain my love and passion for history in general. And, hopefully, if people are listening, they, at the very least, get a semi-entertaining story, even if they don't learn anything. If they do learn a thing or two, or maybe they hadn't heard of something and they learned about something new from me, that's great. That's exactly the way I want this show to go. So welcome to the show. If you are new to it, that is kind of how it went, and how it goes, and how it will continue to go. We are in the middle, or I should say toward the end, actually, of the second season of the show. The first season was just 20 episodes of stuff I liked to talk about. And then when I started my second season of the show, I started to do a slightly more focused version of this show, where each month I would sort of pick a theme, and then I would do stories every week of that month based on that theme. Like, for example, February of 2018 this year was the first month of my second season. So appropriately, I chose Black History Month as the thematic component of February. So I did stories about, different figures in Black history in February. And then I think in April, I did women's history, different strong and cool women in history with really interesting stories. I think in March I did little inconsequential wars and what have you. But yeah, if you're curious about any of that kind of stuff, like, go back and look. Like, I have a ton of different stories popping in here and there and everywhere, but that's basically been the theme of the second season. You pick a theme for the month, and then you dive into different parts of that theme for the month. So if you drop in at any particular month of this year during the second season, especially if it's something that you're really into content-wise, then hey, that's great. You have a ton of stuff that you can delve into and listen to and learn something about. And if it's a subject matter that you're not 1,000% into, then cool. You don't have to listen if you don't want to, or you can skip through it, or you can do, whatever you want to do. I always appreciate my people who are here every single week for me, that are listening to literally all the insane amount of minutes of spoken word history podcasting that I put out over the internet in the last 10 or so months of doing this project. And yeah, it's one of those things where, the first season, it was just a little aimless, and, you never knew what the story was going to be the next week. So, you might enjoy an episode. Like, a lot of people liked my first episode, which is weird to me, because I actually went back and listened to it, or parts of it, just this week, just to go back and see, like, what did this sound like when I first started, just as I was getting to pretty close to the end of our second season now. The next one, next Friday, will be the 40th episode that we've done, which is crazy to think we've nearly done 50 episodes of this goddamn show. But 40 episodes will be next week, and I just wanted to go back and see, hey, what was it like when I did the very first version of this episode? It really wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. I've improved a few things here and there, but it was definitely not the best thing ever. But a lot of people liked the Theodore Roosevelt episode. So it was just one of the things, like, if you listen to my first episode, you got a story about Teddy Roosevelt. And then the next episode I did about Robert Liston, which is completely a different subject matter. And then I did one like about Christopher Columbus, and I did one about the Dalai Lama, and I did one about Hedy Lamarr, and I did, this and that and everything. So it was really just like, I'm here. Like, I'm here, and I'm over here, and I'm up here. And you never could really tell where I was going to go. And honestly, for probably episode maybe 9 or 10 forward to the end of that season, I didn't know what I was going to do on a week-to-week basis. I just basically was like, I'll find an interesting story or person I want to talk about, and I'll, do a thing about them. And that worked, and also just kind of didn't work. Like, it worked for me when I was first starting the show, and then I was just like, this just doesn't seem like it's anything that is, it just doesn't seem very organized by any means. And when you go and find a podcast that you like, if you're just a random person going, hey, what would I like? What would I be into if I wanted to go listen to a podcast every week? Typically, most people like their podcast to be a little more, a little more aimed in a certain direction, a little more narrow in focus. And even though that's not a huge love for me, I really kind of enjoy being a sort of jack of all trades type of history podcast. I did make that change here in the second season to be a little bit more focused. So at the very least, at entire months at a time, you could understand, hey, this is what the show's about right now. And then next month it'll change and be like this now. And you'll get stories about this, that, and the other thing. So I think it's worked out really well. I've had a lot of downloads this season as well. And we're going to do a few more episodes to close up officially the second season. And then, like I said before, we are going to we're going to do an episode on the very first Friday of August. And I'm still not entirely sure what I'm going to do, but I will think of that pretty soon. And then what I'm going to do is for the next 3 or 4 weeks of August, because August is another weird one where there is 5 Fridays in August. I think what I'm going to end up doing is probably 3. I'm going to play the top 3 episodes of my podcast in order of downloads, in order of popularity. So basically, week 1 of August is going to be whatever episode I decide to be, whether it be a crazy history episode, just a random one-off, or some other thing that I think of doing. And then the next 3 straight weeks, I'm going to do, the number 3 all-time download episode I have. Then the next week will be number 2, and then the next week will be number 1. So I'll basically just going to re-record, the top and bottom end of most podcasts to say, hey, this is a replay of a previous episode. Thanks for listening. This is like my number 3 most downloaded episode. Enjoy it. And we'll play through all 3 of those so that there's at least content still coming out on the feed. And newer listeners may be able to pop in and say, hey, this is the most popular episodes that he's put out. I should take a look at these and see how they go. And people who have been listening to the show with me since the beginning or since early on or whatever may see one of their favorites pop in and out, and they can re-listen to an episode that was really good. So that's what we'll do. And then at the end of August, since there are 5 Fridays in August, I will probably just think of some random, probably prequel to the 3rd season of the podcast at the end of that. And then in September of 2018, which will be, in a month and a half or so now, we will start the 3rd season of the show. So that's pretty crazy. We'll be a year. The show first aired and premiered on September, I think, 12th, I want to say, or 11th or 13th, one of those, of 2017 was when my first episode was released. So in, the first week and a half or so, or 2 weeks of September, will be the 1-year anniversary then of this show. And that point will be near 50 episodes. Actually, we should be technically over 50 episodes if you count all of the mini episodes I did, and especially if you counted all the prequel episodes that I do, even though I don't really count them as episodes. We'll have that much content, but we'll be pretty close to 50 official episodes. And so, in order to celebrate the ever-changing nature of this podcast, the 3rd season of this show, I'm finally, after nearly a year, and it'll be a year when we get to that point, I'm finally going to have actual other people on the show besides yours truly talking and doing the old thing. You know, the whole one mic show is going to become, at the very least, some weeks. It's not going to be an every week ordeal because I very much doubt, unless somebody out there listening right now wants to come over to my house once a week, every week, and record a show, or, you know, come over a day or two and just record like 5 fucking shows with me, then, you know, more power to us. I would totally be into that. If you are interested and you would like to try something like that, and you're one of my listeners and you're, I guess, local to me, I would love to do that. If you're somebody who would like to call in and you're a far away person, I can set up a Skype number for the show and we can do some remote interviews, although I tend to shy away from that kind of stuff because that kind of shit is kind of hard to do audio-wise and, you know, not sound stupid as shit. But hey, I'm willing to learn and figure out everything that's going to be happening in that realm as well. So that's the big news there. Like, we're going to, you know, we're going to do what we do in July. We're going to take most of the month of August off, where I'll just replay some of the popular episodes that this show has had up to this point. And then in September, we're going to kind of go back to, it's kind of going to be a melding of new stuff and the first season again. We'll talk about more random topics again, although this time I'll have actual people come on and we're going to talk about, you know, whatever is interesting to that person. I think the best way I can think about how to format those type of episodes is to either come up with a story and do some research on my own, and then basically have another person in the room where, you know, I sort of half-assed tell them, you know, the story of whatever I think is interesting, and then, you know, here and there and everywhere we can sort of break in and talk about what we've been talking about, and it's a, you know, whole 2-person operation. We can do a format where the person who is the guest of the show comes in and tells me a story, or wants to talk about you know, a type of story, maybe not, you know, saying, hey, I'm going to tell you the story of this, but more like, hey, I think this person or situation is super interesting. Here's a few things, like, let's break it down and talk about it for a little while. I think that's going to be another great way to bring people onto the show. And then honestly, if it sounds reasonable, I think I might just have people on that just want to, you know, shoot the shit, talk about the show, talk about our lives, talk about podcasting in general, because it is on its own an interesting little cultural phenomenon and subject to talk about. So that is my plan. When we get into season 3, I've got another microphone on the way. I'll be working on getting a sort of 2-person setup going on here at the old abode. And if, you know, I would love, this is my call to action to all people who would be interested in coming over to my house, literally, and recording an episode with me with whatever you want to do. If you want to do that, let me know. Either tweet at me or find me on Facebook. If you're my friend, honestly, you'll be my friend on Facebook and stuff, so we can hook up there. If you see me in real life, if you see me face to face and you would like to do something like that, let me know. I will make it happen. We'll find something we can talk about and we can do a show about it. I think it's going to be really fun just to stop hearing my voice only, because you've had 40 plus episodes now of just me talking to myself, looking at a wall and going, hey, this is podcasting, I guess. We'll finally get to sort of step our game up and get it to the point where now we have more and different perspectives coming into the show besides my own. And then we can meld that flavor into a real tasty history goulash. It'll be wonderful. It'll be a whole lot of fun. So that's the plan. If you are interested, if you have stuff you want to talk about, or if you're just, you know, even a teeny bit interested, just even going, hey, maybe I want to do something like that, let me know. I will, when I post this episode, I'll post a lot of that info as well. And obviously a lot of you who listen to the show know me in real life as well and see me in real life as well. So let me know, you know, if you want to, we can certainly set something up and we can make it happen. So that's the big news about what's coming up for next season. For the month of July, so basically next month, the next few Fridays of July, I'm going to do an even more in-depth sort of monthly series. I know before we've been doing where I've just said, hey, this is a topic area, and now I'll pick 2 or 3, 4 different types of things to talk about in that area. The month of July, I am just going to cover one particular topic, and it's going to be a part-by-part series, and we are going to cover the American Revolution. We are going to talk about the American Revolution basically top to bottom in honor of it being July in America. A lot of people screaming about freedom around this time of year, so why don't we take the time machine back to 1776 or even a little bit earlier than that, and let's talk about for the next month or so how, the lead up to revolution and how the American Revolution went and what all came of it. And it'll be a fun series to do. It'll probably be my most detailed series yet. We will have parts 1, 2, and 3 according to my calendar here. 1, 2, 3. Yep, 1, 2, and 3 for the next 3 Fridays in July. So it'll be an interesting time. So that's what we're going to do in July. We are going to cover the American Revolution. First week of August, we'll do something, not entirely certain yet, and then we'll replay the top most downloaded episodes ever for the remainder of August. And then we'll get into September, and we will start doing some dual podcast action. You will start hearing voices that aren't just mine. They will be other people's as well. It's going to be a super good time. I'm really excited to, finally say that I have actual plans to do all that stuff now, because I have a little bit more time and I've had time to think about it. And, gathering equipment is a very slow process when you have other bills and stuff to pay anyhow. So that's just the way it goes, basically. So I'm finally happy to say that, yes, that is going to be happening. You can look forward to it. If you are interested, let me know. Let's talk. You got something you want to talk about, let's talk about it. You don't have anything to talk about, but you want to hear a story and just happen to hear it in person instead of over the podcast, and then later on hear it in podcast form, let me know. Let me know about all that stuff. We will figure out what to do. I would love to sit across from you at a table and awkwardly look at you and you look at me, and we're talking into microphones with headphones on our ears, and it's going to be a super duper fun time. You will love doing it. If you've never done anything like this, you've never talked on a microphone, you've never actively listened to your own voice by way of monitoring, any of that kind of stuff, it would be a really fun experience. You will have a ton of fun doing it. Maybe it will inspire you yourself to start your own podcast on something that you love talking about, or maybe just come on mine. My well-established at this point podcast, you can come on mine and talk to me about any old thing that you want to. Guys, that's all right there that I have to talk about for this month. We've somehow managed to and hum and whatever our way through nearly 20 minutes of total fucking nonsense. Here we are at the end of this prequel episode to July. Guys, we have a whole bunch in store yet for the show. This show is nowhere near done doing what it needs to do. I hope you join me for the month of July. We have some really good shows coming up there, and I truly hope that after August is over and September rolls around, we've been doing this show for a year, that you join me then, both figuratively and literally join me in my house and talk with me about something. And we're going to have a really good time doing it. Guys, until all that stuff goes down, as per the usual, please be nice to each other. Go adopt an animal from the shelter, because that's fun to do. And live long, always, and prosper.